Hello Astro subscribers, and welcome back to another video of the Exalted and Debilitated planet series. Today we're going to be talking about the planet of Neptune and its exaltation and debilitation points. So, first off, as I always do in every series, I explain the premise of the series. It's a video about astrology. It's a video about a particular definition of astrology, I guess, which is that planets mirror personalities through sort of a fractaling pattern, and throughout this pattern, and by using this pattern, you can predict things that are likely to happen that you would otherwise not have access to or a perspective of, because you wouldn't be linking it to recurring phenomenon. Gives you a reference point so as to predict the future of society, of people, by linking different types of circumstances to different astronomical time periods. So that's what the basic premise of this is. An exaltation and a debilitation point, if you think of the planets as sub-personalities within your total personality, different aspects of you that are specific to you, but also mirrored to some extent in everyone else around you. For instance, everybody gets angry. Everybody has a Mars in their chart somewhere, but people get angry in different ways. Some people use their words, some people use their emotions, some people try to reason things out logically. Whatever the avenue for your anger, everybody has that. Likewise, everybody loves, that's Venus, and the same thing applies. Everybody loves differently, everybody's attracted to different personality traits in a person, and their Venus placement, in theory, is a good avenue to calculate that. So, an exaltation and a debilitation point is a place where, in the sky, where that sub-personality, whether it's Mars, Venus, whatever, feels most comfortable. And the places in the sky are divided into several different sections: houses, signs, nakshatras, hours. All of these have particular significance, lesser and greater degrees of significance, and it represents the hero's journey that Joseph Campbell and Carl Jung talked about. And because of that, you can imagine that certain sub-personalities do better in certain places in the sky. So, for instance, Venus is exalted in Pisces, which is the sign of unconditional love, and is debilitated in the opposite, Virgo, which is the sign of conditional, material things, logic, facts, reason, all that stuff. Arguments, divorce, combat, fighting, all of these things are related to Virgo, and that's where Venus feels least comfortable. Likewise, Mercury is exalted in Virgo and debilitated in Pisces because it doesn't like to use its imagination. It's not to say that if you have an exalted or debilitated planet placement in your natal chart that you're necessarily doomed to any particular type of activity, or you're just going to maybe find more frustration than other people, or less frustration, depending. So, with that being said, Neptune. What is Neptune, and where is it exalted and debilitated? Neptune is the counterpole to Uranus. So the planets tend to come in sort of pairs, and the pairs have a sort of positive and negative category to them. So for instance, when you're talking about your own ego, Venus and Mars are basically your ego. One of them is your desires, and one of them is your activity in the pursuit of those desires. When you're talking about society, you can look at Jupiter and Saturn. Saturn represents the harsh aspect of society. Jupiter represents the positive or useful or benevolent aspect of society. Jupiter is the fireplace that keeps you warm at night. Saturn is the reason that your house has a door and walls, as an example. Now, when it comes to creativity and innovation, new ideas, See, Jupiter and Saturn, they represent society, but they represent, in particular, the parts of society which are sort of already known. So Jupiter is like the culture's belief system, and Saturn is the rigidity and dogma and rules of your culture, the laws that keep that belief system, that positive religion, or whatever your society is, the moral system, keep it protected and insulated and distinguished from everything else around it. So when it comes to updating those systems and updating society, there are two planets that represent subpersonalities in our minds that do that. And these are Uranus and Neptune. Now, Uranus I made the last video on Uranus, is an aspect of Saturn. It's very Saturnian in its nature. The difference is that instead of putting in time and effort, Uranus wants to put that same time and effort in towards improving the quality of the time and effort you spend. So it represents tool use, technology, making things more efficient, that kind of thing. And for more information on that, you can check out the last video I did. Neptune is the counterpole to Uranus. Neptune represents, it's a complicated idea, but it represents the sum total of all creative ideas. So everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly, whereas Uranus just represents the useful ideas. Uranus separates the wheat from the chaff. Neptune is the wheat and the chaff together with no differences. It's, like I said, the good, the bad, the ugly. It's the source of which all creative, inspirational, innovative ideas could potentially ever come from. It is the sum total of all possible belief systems. And because of this, it is a very chaotic entity. It represents water. Water is always, in a metaphorical sense, the unknown, chaos, hardship, nature. And this is because people obviously are not comfortable in water, or not comfortable in the cold. We would much rather prefer a sunny, dry day than a cold, rainy day, for example. Every story has a flood myth, and the flood myth is almost always due to human meddling in nature. So it's like, because of the bad ideas, or because of the inability to tell the difference between good ideas and bad ideas, and the moral degradation of the society, there is always a flood myth. And people say, well, our society doesn't have a flood myth, but that's exactly what global warming is. It's the same thing. It just has a secular tinge to it. I'm not saying it's not real or anything like that. I'm just saying that it is the precise mirror to every other culture's flood myth throughout history, in that the story is, whether you believe it or not, that human meddling in the affairs of nature causes an apocalypse that is basically categorized by like rising waters. Now, those rising waters are Neptune. It is the recurring archetype of that, of the inability to tell good ideas from bad ideas, the fixation on the wrong thing, the creative delusion, the deception that is both part of creativity, and is, if you fixate too much on the self-deception, then the story is you will be washed away by time, entropy, and nature and chaos. And all those things are Neptune. So where is Neptune most comfortable? It's most comfortable in the sign of Cancer. And the reason for this is because Cancer is probably the most, I would say, welcoming or comfortable sign. It is a place, it represents your home. It represents, the time frame associated with Cancer is midnight, the middle of the night. And where are most people in the middle of the night? They're at their home. Unless you're out partying or something. That's Leo, the house right before Cancer. But the Cancer archetype represents the quality of your sleep. It represents the quality of your dreams. because obviously, if you have a comfortable bed, if you have a comfortable home and a secure home, you're going to sleep better. A lot of people don't think about that, but you think people who live on a street bench are getting much sleep, or you think they're dreaming much? No, they do their dreaming during the day. That's why you can hear them talking to themselves. That's sort of a misappropriation of Neptune. If somebody, this is a good way to think about it. If somebody is dreaming during the day, like dreams don't necessarily make a lot of sense. They're not very practical in the materialistic sense, which is why we do them they're necessary. It's necessary to sort of compartmentalize all your ideas and think about them and process them in an imagistic or a way that you understand things when you don't understand them. You see them in image and story, and then maybe you might be able to interpret those dreams, but you're not doing that in the middle of the day because it would interfere with your productivity. And that's how why Neptune is exalted in Cancer, because it allows the dreams to have their most comfortable expression in a safe and private environment, which is secure and has four walls around it and that kind of thing. Now, the opposite of that exaltation is obviously the debilitation. And when Neptune is in Capricorn, what happens is that two things happen. One, people feel the need to express their sort of unfiltered ideas in public. So these might be people who are like very well known for believing in things that not a lot of people believe, or like they'll identify with an idea that they'll maybe see on the internet, and they'll bring it to the light. Capricorn represents noon, Cancer represents midnight. Capricorn represents the things that you do during the day, the ways other people see you, your reputation, that kind of thing, your work life. It's like a good example of Neptune in Capricorn is actually Dwight Schrute from the American Office show, because if you think about him, right, he's got kind of this awkward appearance, and he's always saying things in a very unorthodox way that's very off the cuff, where he is like bringing up these complicated concepts, but it's sort of an inappropriate situation for speculative ideas. I mean, he works in like an office, so when he's always bringing up these like weird conspiracy theories and other strange things that he's bringing up, these sort of half-baked ideas, people look at him funny. And that's one of the things that can happen, is that you start dreaming during the daytime. A second thing that can happen is particularly if like Saturn is in a Jupiter ruled sign, or Saturn and Jupiter are like conjunct or trine or something, what can happen is these people feel a strong need to be recognized for their sort of unformed creative ideas. So they feel a need to dream and become famous for that dream. So a good example of this would be there was an artist who got famous for drawing schizophrenic visions. Like, she had these like really horrifying visions of like spiders and skulls and worms and that kind of thing. And she drew them down and actually gave people a window of what it's like to be a person who experiences that kind of thing. And because of that, she became a fairly successful visual artist. So that can be another. Inventors can also be seen from Neptune and Capricorn. Architects who build weird or unorthodox creative structures could also potentially be seen from that, because Capricorn and all earth signs represent engineering. So yeah, that was my analysis of Neptune in Cancer and Capricorn, its exaltation and debilitation points. And I was talking about this concept with a friend as a final closing point, and he said, yeah, like, where's your favorite place to do mushrooms? Are you going to do mushrooms in like the comfort of your own home for the first time and have that dream in a private space? that waking dream in a private space, or are you going to do mushrooms in the middle of a town square at noon? So yeah, that's the reason that Neptune is exalted in Cancer and debilitated in Capricorn. Till next time.